Follow along today as I go over the perfect setup for a betta fish. What up, fish friends? I'm Michael with Fresh Flow Aquatics. Today we're going to be setting up this 9-gallon Fluval Flex with a betta fish in mind. It's not going to be like a crazy wild looking aquascape. In fact, it's going to be more like what the natural wild habitat for a betta would look like. I'm really gearing this tank around keeping a healthy betta to live a long, healthy life. Hardscape is always a great place to start. I have these two chunks in mind. Not only do they look good, but the rock at least is functional. I'm gonna put it down here, and then I'm gonna be gluing this wood to the rock. So that's important because wood floats underwater, and if I don't glue it to the rock, it's gonna float up to the top and kind of mess everything up as soon as I fill the tank. Another reason that this rock is helpful is because I have really soft tap water, meaning that there's no minerals, and this is a limestone. It's going to be leaching minerals into the water, raising the GH and KH. We don't want a ton of that in this tank with the betta, but we definitely don't want no minerals in the water. That's not great for that. I'm going to use the good old super glue and paper towel trick to glue the wood to the rock. If you've never seen this before, it can look a little bit like witchcraft, but it's a pretty slick way to glue a couple objects together instantly. So all you got to do is take a little bit of paper towel and then wedge it in between the contact points. So wherever the wood and the rock meet, I can clump up a little paper towel, and then I douse it down with some liquid super glue, not gel. And then, in the next 10 seconds or so, you'll see this chemical reaction taking place. A little bit of steam or smoke is coming up from the paper towel as the glue and the paper towel, and then the two objects that they're touching all bond together to form a secure, attachment, adhesive. It's not as strong as using silicone, but it is pretty instant, like 30 to 60 seconds. I would go around and attach it to a few points if possible. It's great to shove the biggest chunks of paper towel under these back spots where you're not really going to see. It's not super appealing to look at these big clumps of paper towel that are glued up. So just try and hide it as much as you can. Maybe this time around with this big chunk of paper towel, we'll get to see some of that smoke come up that I talked about. After these paper towels are glued in place, you can come through and touch them. If you clink your fingernail to it, it should be solid. And then something else you can do is the tap test. If I pick this up, that's a heavy rock and it's holding. So nice, ready to go in the tank. And this trick also works for attaching wood to wood. So this bit here and this bit were attached. You can see in there's a paper towel, and I sprinkled a little sand on there to try and make it more seamless. It's not perfect, but it works for me. With this being secure, it's time to go in the tank. You still want to be careful holding this around glass. If that rock were to fall, it would cause some serious damage. Time to talk substrate. I'm just going to be using sand in this tank. If you're planning on doing a ton of plants in your betta tank, then it's a good idea to have some sort of soil under there. There's tons of different types, like garden soil or actual products designed for aquariums, aqua soil, which I'm a big fan of. But like I mentioned earlier, I'm really trying to gear this tank around bettas. So no point in having soil since I'm not going to have much light blasting through there. And sand is a nice, crisp, clean looking finish. I'm going to top it off with some leaves afterwards so you won't even see a lot of the sand. One of the good things about this sand is that I already had it in a running aquarium, so it's got a lot of beneficial bacteria. Also going to be adding some ceramic rings from an established filter, so this tank will get a jump start on the nitrogen cycle. I can pretty much add fish right away. Come through here and even this sand out a little bit. Really doesn't have to be perfect. When I fill this tank with water, it's gonna settle in pretty smooth on its own. It'll be nice to add 1 or 2 more chunks of this limestone to the tank. I think it'll just give it a little more detail. All right, I did talk about plants and how I'm gonna be kind of taking it easy in this tank. I got some Java Fern Windelov. This stuff will grow in the darkest conditions, so I'm not too concerned about this with the minimal light in this tank. Another cool thing is this does get really bushy, and there's lots of like intricate little spots for it. That's really clutch for a betta. They love to spend time digging into things, scoping out different areas of the tank. So this is like a really good area for microfauna to live and for the betta to spend time hunting, which is important mental stimulation for them, keeps them healthy, and it's also just fun to watch them swim around and do stuff. So really easy with this stuff. All you do is kind of wedge it in place. I do want to leave this area kind of open so that we can see this root structure. It's really cool looking to me. There we go. A really easy planting. Done! One last thing I'm going to add to this tank before I fill it are some leaves. I got this big old pot full of leaves down here. I've been soaking them for a while so they'll sink right to the bottom of the tank. Just stuff that I've collected for my backyard, you know, oak, aspen, whatever else is back there. Really easy. Just take these leaves and scatter them along the bottom. Leaves are a great addition for a betta tank because they're naturally found where bettas live, and they release tannins in the water. So tannins are just tannic acid. That's a great way to lower the pH a little bit, and then just to kind of provide like a comfortable, familiar setting for the betta. And I know that the fish I'm going to get is probably captive bred and raised. I'm a big fan of using these faucet adapted hoses to fill your tank. It's not just because I'm lazy. I mean, that's partially it, but also throwing in a bucket of water into there is just going to agitate the hell out of that sand. So it's nice to use this little sponge tip. Just dab that in there, stick it in here, and let her flow. Like slowly, let it flow slowly, not quickly. So I mentioned that flow is not good for bettas earlier. This is my solution. It's not actually mine. It's from this company called Fish Guild Corp. Leave a link in the description, but it works for flexes and a lot of other all-in-one little nano tanks. Just pop that on the outflow and then it'll split it into 5 different little mini waterfalls. So you still get the same amount of water turnover per hour. That means you're getting good filtration, but you have way less turbulence. And to install it, all I gotta do is put this back here and snap it into place like that. There you go, 5 little mini waterfalls. Not much turbulence at all. And then the one last, what I think of as kind of an absolute necessity for these little guys are some floating plants. Bettas love floating plants. I got a few different types. I got some dwarf water lettuce, some Salvina natans, and then some duckweed, everybody's favorite. But just really fill out the top of this tank. That's gonna shade out the understory a lot. It's also going to really help to keep this water clean. It's just going to draw any nitrates, phosphates, and any of those other big nutrients out of the water column. Floating plants are so good at absorbing nutrients, so they are really a twofold item. It's been 3 weeks since setting this tank up. In the meantime, I've gone to my local fish store and purchased a betta. It's a double tail half moon male betta. I noticed that he had like some like swollen extended body parts, all like kind of a little bit of a problem with balance. So I've been quarantining him for like a little over 2 weeks, treating for swim bladder disease and just general antibiotics, but it doesn't really seem to be helping him. At this point, I'm wondering if it's just the way he is. Maybe it's an injury, and he's always going to look like that. Or he does seem pretty healthy otherwise. He is showing really great coloration. He's hungry. He's active. He's always swimming around doing stuff, and his fins look fantastic. So last few things that are super important for a betta fish is the lid. You absolutely got to have a lid. Bettas are known for jumping. If you don't put a lid on it, there's a decent chance that you'll find your fish on the floor one day, or maybe your cat or dog will eat it. If you don't want to put a lid on it, you can drain the tank down a few fingers, and that should be good enough. Heat is very important. I have this tank set to 81 degrees. You can skip out on a lot of things for keeping a betta. They are notoriously neglected. You know, in my years of cleaning fish tanks for clients, that's one of the most commonly neglected fish that I see. And it's really sad because they are actually very fun and active fish when you give them the proper habitat. And heat is part of that. The heat gets their metabolism going, it maintains their body temperature, and that's what they need to move around and to be active and healthy. Food. So, not really part of the habitat, but bettas are obligate carnivores. That means they're not going to eat any vegetable matter you put in there, and live foods like mosquito larvae, bloodworms, Daphnia, baby brine shrimp. Sometimes this guy has a hard time eating them because they're so small, and I think his his eyes are just kind of wonky. He's not really able to hone in on them. Um, but some grindle worms are another good option. And then frozen foods, frozen bloodworms, mysis shrimp, brine shrimp. I feed him a lot of pellets because it's easy to give him 3 or 4. I know that's exactly what he needs to fill his belly. And then I've been feeding him twice a day. Normally, you can feed him once a day and that'll be fine. But since I'm worried that he was a little underfed and whatever injury is maybe still lingering, I want him to be really healthy. But the catch is when feeding a betta is that you can't overfeed them. They are super prone to bloat. Maybe like one frozen bloodworm is a good meal for them. As soon as they start overeating, you will see their bellies bloat up and they'll have swim bladder issues, really hard time navigating. So if you're worried about your betta being skinny, best to give them a few or a couple meals a day, smaller ones, but don't ever feed them a lot in one go. And that's actually one reason that I like to keep bettas away from other fish, because I have a hard time of feeding them like a small enough amount while also allowing other fish to get to it. Because these guys are really active, and they're kind of a smart fish. They'll recognize you as the human when you come up to feed them and easily outcompete smaller, more shy fish. Even larger fish, they're like a small dog with a big attitude. They're not afraid of anything. And then, of course, you know, bettas, Siamese fighting fish, you don't want to put two males together or even males with females, because the males are only nice to the females during breeding season, and it's kind of arguable whether they're even nice then. But as soon as the females have laid eggs, then you know there's potential for him to kill her. So keep them on their own is how I like to do it. You can definitely mix them with community fish, and that's also fine. And then shrimp, it's up to you. You can keep them with shrimp or not. They'll likely eventually learn that they can eat cherry shrimp. They will not be able to eat full-grown amanos, but when you first get them, chances are they won't be interested in eating cherries. I throw some culls in here. I think the clear ones have a higher chance of survival. And at the moment in time, he's not interested in eating them. He might eat some of the baby shrimp, and then after that, get the idea, oh, those things taste good. I might go for the big ones now. But some of them will actually never develop that tendency. So up to you to decide if you want to be mixing them or not. Well, that's it for this setup. Thanks so much for watching. Please give me some support and love for this channel. All you got to do is hit that like, subscribe button, all that stuff. It really does help me out. Thanks so much. Until next time, see ya.